Do you feel like you've hit your ceiling with competitive TCGs or are not quite sure on how to improve? Well, stick around because in this video, we're going to be discussing tips and tricks on how to develop a growth mindset, which will enable you to develop your full potential in competitive TCGs and also improve your TCG gameplay. Welcome back to TCG Psychology, the channel where we explore psychological concepts to give you a competitive edge. My name is Miles Cassidy-Rice and I am a sport and performance psychologist, and this week we will be exploring a fixed versus growth mindset. Now, you may have heard these terms before or you may not have, and you may be wondering, well, what do they have to do with competitive TCGs? Well, in this video, we're going to be exploring the differences between a fixed and a growth mindset and how they can contribute to you developing or not developing within the TCG environment. Now, a fixed mindset is a general belief that we have some natural ability or talent, and once we get to the top of that natural ability or talent, there's not much further that we can progress. So within TCGs, this might look like believing there's a limit to our ability in deck building skills, maybe it's in our gameplay, or even being able to pull off combos. A growth mindset looks at how your abilities can be developed through practice and hard work. Challenges are seen as opportunities for growth, and failure is a chance to learn. Within TCGs, this means believing that your skills such as deck building, gameplay, and strategy are not set in stone, but rather you can always improve with effort and practice. There are many benefits to using a growth mindset within competitive TCGs, and some of them include things like motivation. Now, when you're in competitive TCGs, it can be difficult to stay motivated at times when you have a particularly bad tournament, but with a growth mindset, we're able to overcome those challenges quicker, learn from what happened, and set action plans for a future tournament. So we're more motivated to increase our performance as we progress through tournament seasons. More resilient, so within situations where we face a threat or a challenge within our gameplay, we're able to overcome those difficult situations quicker and bounce back from round to round. Now, this is especially important in TCGs where there's sometimes quick turnarounds between rounds and you need to be able to enter into the next round ready to go again. We're also able to learn faster with a growth mindset, so we're not just identifying what went wrong in our gameplay, but also what can we learn from those situations. We see those difficulties as an opportunity to learn and actively look for how we can develop our TCG skills. We're also able to be more creative in these situations when we have a growth mindset. We're okay with trying out new things because, again, that's an opportunity for us to learn, so we can really push the meta and see what combos and strategies we can come up with and be okay when it maybe falls apart. So we're able to identify what went well, what opportunities we can develop further. Finally, we also have a higher ceiling, so setting ourselves, this is where I'm going to reach, I'm not going to move past that, but actually we're looking at our potential and exploring how we can go further from what we initially are able to achieve. Within this video, we're going to be exploring two strategies that you can use to develop your growth mindset. Those are increasing self-awareness around your current mindset, and then we'll explore how you can actively review your gameplay experience and set action plans to develop your gameplay moving forward. Firstly, developing self-awareness around what mindset you currently have is key. We're not able to effectively address what issues you might be facing unless we're aware of them in the first place, and you might find that you already use some concepts of growth mindset, or you might not use any at all, and that's okay. We all start at different points, but the main thing is that you want to learn and grow as an individual. Now, the first step to developing self-awareness is often using some form of journaling. Now, journaling around any non-competitive events that you're taking part in, such as weekly plays or just friendly tournaments at your local store, or even competitive events, are key times when you can use this tool to reflect on what your current mindset is. Now, what you want to do during these tournaments is to identify when you face challenges and threats, what those challenges and threats are, and what thoughts and feelings you had around them. Now, you don't have to do this in the traditional sense of writing it down in a book. However, you're more than welcome to do that if that's your preference. But you can also do it in other ways, such as typing those out on your phone, or also using voice memos to record those thoughts and feelings as well. Now, it doesn't have to be anything too in-depth, but just try and raise awareness around what general thoughts and feelings you have in these situations. because what I want you to do with this tool is to start looking at how many times you have a negative response in these situations and when they don't necessarily contribute to you growing in the future. It may surprise you how many times you have negative responses to these types of events, so increasing that awareness is really important, being this first step on the journey. Now, once we start to identify what those negative thoughts and feelings might be, or even how often you're facing them, we might use tools such as reframing, which we've talked about in a previous video, which I'll link up above in case you haven't seen it. But this is where you can start addressing those thoughts and feelings by using tools such as reframing. Next is about setting action plans as TCG players, and not just thinking about what went wrong, but actually what we're going to do about that in the future. When we face challenges and mistakes, it can be really tempting to just focus on the negatives of that and what went wrong, and not necessarily focus on, well, what can I learn from this and how do I learn from this to address that again in the future. When it comes to reviewing gameplay, it's important to go past just reviewing what went wrong, but also what options do I have in terms of deck building or gameplay skills that I can use to develop further by the time that next tournament comes around. Now, an example of this might be when you're in a tournament, you're expecting a certain meta. Unfortunately, that meta has shifted a little bit, so now we're suddenly on the back foot in that tournament. We have a card that keeps coming up that we put in our deck for a certain reason, but it's not really relevant to where the meta is currently, so we typically end up resourcing it or not playing it at all, or sideboarding it out after game one. So moving forward, this is an opportunity to grow and learn from that experience, particularly around our deck building skills, and identify some other similar cost cards that we might utilize in place of that card that may have more flexibility or adaptability to the meta. Now, the action plan piece comes from identifying those cards and identifying when we can practice them. So it might be worth identifying a few options so that over the upcoming weeks in our weekly plays, etc., we're able to switch out those cards and try different combos to see which one suits us, and improve our deck building skills by making those small adjustments through those action plans that we set from that tournament. So being able to take that step further and set that action plan is really key. Now, it's not just in our deck building skills that we can use a growth mindset as well. We can also identify challenges and threats that might have happened within that round that we may be able to set action plans for the future as well. You might identify that a consistent theme is going one game down in your tournaments causes you major setbacks and you're unable to overcome those challenges. So again, we can set action plans in these situations. We've reflected on, this is the area that I might need to improve. My action plan now is to practice this at my weekly plays going forward and be comfortable going a game down. So you might intentionally go into your future weekly practices for the next few weeks and say, I want to start a game down, I'll concede my first game, you've won the first one, let's go into game two. And by doing so, you're becoming comfortable with being in that situation of, I'm a game down, what do I need to do now to overcome this challenge and be effective going into game two and then into game three once we've won game two. So setting those action plans, figuring out how we're going to address those issues that we've identified is really key to a growth mindset, because we're actively trying to learn from those situations. So remember, it's not just about identifying areas to improve, but also how we are going to improve in those situations as well. Mindset is a long-term investment in our TCG ability, and it's not just going to come overnight. It's a consistent process that we're working on, and I like to compare it to climbing up a staircase. Now, we may have times where we're moving up that staircase relatively steadily, but there may also be times where we have some setbacks and some challenges, which stalls our progress or maybe even brings us back down that staircase a little bit. A growth mindset helps us to consistently push that ceiling and try to move up that staircase more consistently. So keep pushing through even when those challenges might arise. A growth mindset can help you to not only improve your performance, but also have more fulfillment from competing in TCGs and also have a healthier relationship with competition. My question for you today is, what is one area of your TCG performance that you'd like to improve? Go ahead and put that in the comment section below. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you're notified when future videos are uploaded. If you found this video helpful, please go ahead and share it with any TCG players you know. And until next time, make sure you win the mind game meta.